Hi folks, today I wanted to talk a little bit about the positive and the negative lessons learned on my recent 5-day hike in the south of Sweden. The biggest positive lesson for me has to be the water reservoir that I took, the Osby 2.5 litre. If you've seen my recent Sölvesborg video, you'll see on the second day I started off pretty dehydrated because I just wasn't drinking enough water. With the reservoir, you can be constantly sipping water all day long. You can fill it up at the start of the day and then refill it at the end of the day when you get to wherever you're going to. And it makes hiking a lot more fun if you're properly hydrated. Another pretty important lesson for me was this puppy, the Tilly hat. Now, when you first start wearing these things, you feel pretty silly. But when you're out hiking, it provides good protection from the sun. It also provides good protection from the rain. It helps with bugs and mosquitoes as well. If you have sun-sensitive skin like I do, and I've had skin cancer before, so it is something I'm really aware of, get yourself a hat which has full 360-degree coverage to make sure that you keep the sun off the back of your neck, your ears, and obviously your face. Part of the journey that you go on as a hiker is to understand just what you personally are capable of doing. Is it 20k a day, 30k a day, 40k a day, or even just 10 kilometers a day? It doesn't matter what the number is as long as you're able to do it and you don't overreach yourself. So what I definitely 100% confirmed on this trip is 20 kilometers a day is my limit, and I need to stick to that unless I have no choice. 3 of the 5 days that I hiked, I stuck to that 20 kilometer limit. But 2 days I did not. I did 25 kilometers on one day and 26 kilometers on another day. And on that 26 kilometer day, that was when the heavens opened, the rain came down, my feet got soaking, my socks got soaking, and everything else was soaking. And that led pretty much directly to me stopping the hike on day 6 because I basically ran out of stamina. One lesson that I did learn from this trip as well is you don't need to take that many clothes. Really, you only need one set of clothes on and another set of clothes that's currently drying because it's been rinsed out. So you only need 2 tops, one that you're wearing, one that you are either in your pack or is drying. Same for socks, same for trousers or shorts. Pretty much everything you only need 2 pairs, one to wear and one that you have rinsed or is drying. The one potential exception to this is night clothes. So what a lot of people do, especially in winter when it's colder, is you'll take a base layer. So leggings of merino wool and also a top base layer as well. Probably the biggest lesson for me on the negative side was simply my pack weight. My dry pack weight was about 9.7 kilos and wet, so that's with food and water, 2 litres of water and then food for about 6 days realistically, was about 17.3 kilos. So that's 7.5 kilos of extra weight. 2 of that will have been water, so that's 5.5 kilos of food, and that's ridiculous. I deliberately went overcautious because this was the first time that I was doing anything like this in terms of resupplying whilst I'm actually out hiking. In the past, I've always done shorter hikes, so I've taken food with me. What I learned is that it's super easy to resupply. Pretty much any supermarket you can pop into, or you can go to a restaurant. The first 4 days of the hike, there were no restaurants, there were no supermarkets, because you're basically going through the bike country, a lot of lakes, very little civilization. But as soon as I got out of that section, I hit Glimokra and then Osby, and from then on, every 1 to 2 days, you're going to hit a town that's got a supermarket and or a restaurant. So I could have easily taken 2 to 3 kilos less of food and still have been fine. Don't do any kind of serious hiking with a pair of boots or trail runners that are at the end of their life. Now, these are my Moab 2s. And I've had these for about a year, maybe 15 months or so. And for the last 6 to 9 months, I've been using them as my day shoe as well. So if I go to work or I go out anywhere, I generally wear these because they're pretty comfortable. The nice thing about the Moab 2s is that they're super comfortable as soon as you put them on. There's no breaking in period. They just work. But I will not be buying another pair of these trail runners. And there's 2 reasons for that. First of all, even after only a year or close to a year and a half maybe, you can see there's already splits there. There's splits on the side here. On this one it's even worse. It's actually starting to come away from the sole and water can get in there. Secondly, at the back of the heel here, it won't, I'm not to show you this on the camera, but the back of the heel, that's already all rubbed out. And there is a seam there on the heel where there is where they sole. And the challenge there is, if you put new insoles into these, they raise your heel just enough to rub on that seam. So I did buy myself a brand new pair of insoles just before I went on this trip. Luckily, I tested them for about an hour before I left, and I found that my heel was rubbing and starting to blister, so I took them out and I used a standard Moab 2 insoles. After only a year or so of using a pair of trail runners, they should not be in this state. And the fact that I can't use other kinds of insoles with them means that I will not buy another pair of Moab 2s, which is a shame because they're actually really super comfortable. There was an additional effect on this particular trip in that these are Gore-Tex. So rain coming down here, or coming down here should not get into the shoe itself. But because there are holes at the edges here, because there are breaks there, not only did my boots get completely wet through, but my socks got wet through, and also obviously my feet did. And for 2 or 3 days I was walking with drenched feet, and that is not fun. Make sure you check the weather. And if the weather is horrendous, for example, there's going to be a torrential downpour, don't be afraid of sitting that out in your tent, waiting for the next day, waiting for 2 days if you have to, and then going on. You get some rest while you're in your tent, you can dry off anything that needs doing, watch Netflix, listen to podcasts, do whatever it is that you want to do, because it's much better doing that than it is going through that torrential downpour or heavy snows or whatever it is, and getting so wet or so cold that you can't dry anything out. And this segues into another lesson as well, which is clothesline. Take a small 2-3 meter clothesline, something that you can put in your tent, so you can just hang your socks and your other clothes from there when you're in there. If it's very humid, it won't dry them out that much, but it will a little bit, and it just makes your life a little easier. So the lesson here is check the weather. Don't be afraid of staying in your tent for a day if the weather's really bad, and get a clothesline. I think it's fair to say that the last year and a half has been horrendous for the vast majority of us. With COVID and with restrictions and lockdowns, it's been extremely unpleasant. And one thing that we need to recognise is that if we have been locked down or been under restrictions, we might not be as fit as what we think we are. And I definitely hit this one. Even though I'm super lucky, I live in Sweden. We've not had lockdowns, we've had minimal restrictions. In fact, the government has encouraged us to go out into nature and hike and walk and particularly to stay healthy. Despite all of that, this trip definitely brought home that I am not as fit as what I was a year and a half ago. And I need to recognise that, and I'm taking steps. So I was very much caught off guard by how little energy I was able to recover every day. Even though I was sleeping pretty well, I just didn't have anywhere near the same level of energy I had the day before. And that was a pretty steep slope down to day 6, and is pretty much the reason why I finished the hike early. Thank you for watching this video. Those are pretty much all the positive and the negative lessons that I learned 5 days of hiking across southern Sweden. Please let me know in the comments if there's anything you think I've missed, especially if you've watched my video. I'll put a link to that in the description below, and I'll see if I can get a card somewhere around the video as well. If you enjoyed this video, please like, and if you really enjoyed this video, please feel free to subscribe. Thank you very much for watching. Enjoy yourself. Take care.